Welcome back, guys, to Octagon Thoughts powered by Mayflower Sports. I am Andrew, joined by Harry. You can find him on Twitter at Thoughts Octagon. We have my man Clint joining us at DieHardMMA. Happy to have him on. Before we get into this and we start going through everything, we're going to throw a bunch of clips out on the screen in post-production of all of the celebrations that you have done after a win and in your car getting ready for stuff. Clint is informative, entertaining, and most importantly, you make people a lot of money. So welcome in, man.
I love it. Thank you very much, Andrew. I get a little carried away when I cash a ticket every now and then, but it's fun and entertaining for everybody. And I try to win more than I lose. That's the whole game plan, right?
Exactly. And then you can get the fireball going and all of that good stuff. So, I think that what's great is that, obviously you're trying to win bets and you provide so much information, but you have fun. And that's what I want to do too. And that's one of the reasons why Harry and I do this podcast and we talk UFC together. So before we jump in anything, we have a lot of questions to ask about this weekend and just UFC in general. But you and I have known each other for a long time, but haven't actually ever spoken. And that's like with so many people on Twitter. It feels like we're buddies, and we are, but we've never even spoken until right now. So I'm curious how you got into everything, how you started up your Twitter account, how you got started with Pub Sports. Let us know how you got involved with everything.
Yeah, man. It's what we're in the age of internet friends, and it's so crazy that you could have never had a conversation, you could have never heard somebody's voice, and somehow you feel like you're able to go out and grab a beer with them. It's a little
Definitely
crazy, but it's cool too, though. It's cool to know we've got friends all over the place. For me, it was a bit of a long road, man. Like I actually, I was an artist back in the day before I ever started betting and stuff like that. So I got on Twitter doing things like that, trying to spread my stuff out there. And then how I really got started betting was poker. I was an absolute nerd in high school. I was a bit of a geek. So, grew up watching Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff. So I played all the card games. And when I got older, my competitive nature, I played football and stuff like that. I was a starter on the football team. I was a weird hybrid between a jock and a geek, man. They did not know what to do with me in high school. And I went from playing card games and trying to be competitive as an adult to like, how do I mix these two things? And I found poker. Poker was perfect because I scratched that itch of the card games, and then there was the competitive nature of it, and that really hooked me on the gambling. That kind of just flowed straight on into sports betting, man. Once I started watching MMA, once I started getting into football, I already knew how to bet. I knew how to calculate pot odds, and it just kind of works. So, Jimmy, I owe so much. Shout out to my guy, Jimmy the Bag. He was working at a company called SBR. I know a lot of you probably have heard of them. They've been around for a long time. I started jumping in the chat. Anytime he did one of his live shows where they broke things down every single day, they never covered MMA. He does basically everything under the sun but MMA. So I started jumping in the chat and shouting out MMA stuff. I started giving my picks and my bets, and I did well enough that he noticed me. So Jimmy literally extended an olive branch and was like, hey, man, like, come on the show on a Friday. Tell everybody about MMA because I can't talk about MMA. I don't know anything. And that really was the start of it, man. I worked for SBR for a while. Things kind of changed and shifted over there. And then next thing you know, both Jimmy and I got picked up by odds.com. We had a good run for about the last year at odds.com. And things, again, kind of unfortunately shifted over at odds. They hit a bit of a rough patch. And I made a really good relationship with the guys over at Pub Sports Radio. I've been writing articles for them and jumping on their live streams and stuff like that for about a year now. And when things changed and we kind of veered away from odds, I was the first guy they called. They welcomed me with open arms and brought me over. And now I'm with Pub Sports Radio, and I absolutely love it. I got a bunch of fantastic cappers, and really it's a lot of MMA focus over there, and they picked up Jimmy too, so it's like my sports betting family is all with me, man. It's a good deal.
So I saw that you recently started posting more about NHL gambling too. So how did you start off specialized in MMA specifically? Were you just a fan of the sport, like Die Hard? Is that where you got the name?
You know what? The name for Die Hard is because, first off, I am a diehard MMA fan. That absolutely just fits in. It makes sense. Second, my last name is McLean, and I was like, Die Hard John McClane. It had kind of like a double meaning. So, we just came up with DieHardMMA. It kind of fit, and I could, hit both parts of that there. But yeah, man, I loved MMA. I fell in love with it when I went to college. Like I said, I was an athlete in high school looking for something to do when I got into college. And unless you're going and playing college or professional sports, there's nothing you really do after high school. So I picked up jiu-jitsu. I fell in love with MMA and I fell in love with jiu-jitsu, and I started competing in jiu-jitsu. So I watched every single MMA fight, The Ultimate Fighter, every single week. I was glued to my TV. The fact of the matter is, I have always loved football, and that's about the only sport I ever watched. That's the only sport I ever cared about. Go Vikings. Can't wait for this season.
You see, Harry has his on too, where he's repping as well.
I saw that.
We got Trevor. We're coming.
You guys made some good moves. It's going to be an interesting season for sure.
Should be.
So we that really just kind of, I didn't do sports, man, and it was my relationship with Jimmy and watching his live show. He's an NHL guy. He's from Canada. He grew up playing NHL, kind of how I grew up playing football. And I was just like, man, what is this NHL thing about? Like we used to. For MMA, it's only Saturdays. Like until Bellator and the PFL came along, it's Saturdays. And at the beginning, it wasn't even every week. It was like every other week, once a month. Like there were not regular cards for MMA. So I had nothing to watch. I started getting the itch as a gambler. I wanted to bet on stuff. I'm liking watching sports now these days as I'm getting older. And football is only Sundays. So I'm like, damn, man, like I'll get a game on Thursday, maybe Monday nighter. They usually suck, so I don't know if I'll watch that. But then, Sunday is the day. So I've got Saturday, Sunday for sports betting, and that's it. Well, one of these days, Jimmy was just adamant that the Calgary Flames were going to destroy whoever they were playing. And I went, man, fuck it. I'll tell my guy Jimmy, I'll throw a bet on the Flames. And he said, don't bet the money line, bet the puck line. And that's a nice big plus 195. And the Flames had one of the most entertaining games of the season. It was about 3 years ago. And I was just losing my mind. They were up by like 4 goals, which in hockey is not normal. So it was just the perfect storm of me watching one of the most exciting games of the season and cashing a ticket on like a random Tuesday night.
So if they lost by 5 goals, are you still into hockey? Are we even sitting here talking about hockey?
Butterfly effect, man. I don't know, because I cashed a beautiful ticket and it was a fun game to watch. And I started following hockey ever since. I caught the bug bad. I've started attending Coyotes games here in the Valley. I mean, I got it bad. Like hockey is probably my number 2 sport. Like it may have passed football as my favorite sport outside of MMA. So yeah, I owe a lot to Jimmy and I owe a lot to the Flames, and now I'm a complete nut for hockey. I love it.
I love it. You're always posting those goal scoring props too, and all kinds of different things, and so that's great. I love it, especially when we're on the same side. We're both cheering for the same thing. But yeah, I wanted to touch on, before we jump into some of the fights and a few fighters and stuff like that. You have posted MMA pictures of yourself before, so we can get you to just expand on that a little bit. Like what have you learned, actually in like your personal life doing MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that you've actually taken into your handicapping?
It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. I have so much respect for the fighters because, man, boxing is a sport. Kickboxing is a sport. Wrestling is a sport. They do it all in mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. You look at like, here, you guys are going to get me started. You look at LeBron James, all right? Someone flicks his ear, and he's rolling around like a soccer player on the basketball court.
Keep it coming. I love it.
You don't see mixed martial artists do that. They have blood pouring from their forehead, and they walk down their opponents and try and kill them. It's a different level of mental toughness. It's a different level of mind over matter. And I'll be honest with you guys, I can't do it. And that's something that I learned. I can do jiu-jitsu. I started trying boxing. I started trying Muay Thai. I don't like getting hit. It sucks.
Who does?
It's one of those things that the toughness of these people, my respect for these individuals, it's just jumped leaps and bounds from having experienced a small taste of it myself. And honestly, man, it's something that I think has really helped in my particular handicapping, because In MMA, you can't always trust the numbers. You know, sometimes that human element comes out. Sometimes it's like when a goalie stands on their head in hockey.
Exactly.
Somebody says, I am not losing this fight. And they don't. You know what I mean? They will themselves to that next level. And it's beautiful to watch when that happens in the cage. And finding those fighters and understanding, I play a lot of underdogs. You find the people that have that second gear. You find the people that have that mental toughness. And it makes it a whole lot easier to bet on them because you know they're not going to quit on you.
Yeah, and I find that so cool because, you know, hockey's an, you know, a money line sport as well. NFL, obviously, you're betting a lot of point spreads and totals and different things like that. You can bet totals in UFC, but you're sometimes forced, like you said, to bet these like minus 220s or 200s unless you're looking to, you know, grab an underdog. You're not going to get a minus 110 every fight. It's just not going to happen for you. But the funny thing is, sometimes you might find a guy that's minus 220 that should be minus 265.
Yep.
And then, you know, that's what we call value. And let's not even get into it. I know you've done a podcast before with Gianni, so he's Mr. Value himself. He loves talking about that. It's his favorite word. And he knows all about that. Gianni is a great UFC handicapper. But that's what I find so cool about the UFC is, like you said, you could see a guy at an underdog spot. Everyone's counting him out. And you think to yourself that he has that extra gear. We got to jump into some more fun questions like the fireball and all that, but we do have to get into some fights. So I'll go to you, Harry, first. We'll start with fight number 1. Adesanya is back in action, man. He's always cracking me up. He's funny in the interviews. What are your thoughts, man? He's going back at it again with Vettori.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because he's coming off a loss for the first time in his career, even though it was at 205, and he came in at probably the same weight that he's going to fight at here, if not just a few pounds heavier. And he takes on someone that has that wrestling style, kind of like Jan in a way, except that Vettori's probably not near the striker that Jan is, in my opinion. He's not as technical. He's a bit of a hothead, too, which got me really interested in this one because I don't think he has the mental fortitude to hang in there with Izzy for 5 rounds. I think Izzy's going to toy with him. I don't think he can close the gap. I think the big octagon helps Izzy a lot, too, here. The extra 5 feet to work with on each side. And I think Izzy's going to be able to keep this on the feet for, I don't see Vettori winning 3 out of 5 rounds, and I don't see any way he can finish Adesanya. So I think Adesanya will rack up rounds, and Vettori will get more and more frustrated and worn out as he keeps diving for the takedowns because he knows too he can't hang up Adesanya on the feet, especially if the reach advantage that Adesanya has in his kicks and just his sharpness. Like, he's not going to go into Vettori, and Vettori's going to have to come in. It's going to take a toll out of Vettori, and I don't think he has it in him. So I like Adesanya in this one.
What about you, Clint? We're going the same way?
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. It's a spot where, honestly, this is recency bias at its best because we just saw Israel Adesanya get out-grappled by a big, strong wrestler for 25 minutes, and now everyone's going, oh, man, Vettori, he's a big, strong wrestler.
Exactly.
He's going to do the same exact thing that we just saw it. And it's crazy to say, like you were talking about before, man, it's crazy to say that there's value on a minus 260 favorite. But coming off of his performance before the Jan fight, where he destroyed Paulo Costa in the first round, this is a minus 500 if they match him up with Vettori then. If we remove the Jan fight from the equation, this is a much, much bigger line. People just remember what they saw last. And on top of that, man, Izzy is more motivated than I've seen him in a long time. He is surging right now. You know, in MMA right now, you got the big 3. You got King Francis Ngannou at heavyweight. You've got Kamaru Usman, and then you've got Israel Adesanya, the Nigerian kings, man, and they feed off of one another. He talked about how watching Kamaru Usman dominate Masvidal in the rematch and put an end to that. I don't know, you can't really call it a rivalry, but that's the point. He stomped on it. He snuffed it out. Israel Adesanya said that he took something from that, and I think he's going to try and replicate that here. You can get Israel Adesanya by knockout at plus 180, and honestly, I think that's probably the way this thing goes. Vettori's got nothing for him on the feet. He's much smaller than Jan, and like my guy Harry said, he is not the striker that Jan is, and we're in the big cage. We're not even in the apex. So all things favor Israel Adesanya, and we're getting value on the minus 260. I parlayed him. I don't mind if you money line parlay him in case it goes the distance, but I think I'm going to sprinkle that knockout prop, man. I think he gets it done impressively.
Yeah, you mentioned that recency bias. I find that in so many sports it can be effective, but it's so different, I think, in UFC versus any other sport because I'll take my Montreal Canadiens, for example. If they have a bad slump, everyone's going to fade them the next game. That next game is going to be 2 days later. But in the UFC, it's not like you can just fade somebody a couple of days later. They're not in action that often. It would be, they'd die. It'd be horrible. Your body wouldn't be able to take it. So as far as this recency bias goes and what we've seen, and obviously people move up and down different weight classes or different styles against certain fighters. You said this is kind of the perfect example of it. I couldn't agree more, and you talk about what the line could be. Do you think that, how many attempts are we going to see for this fight to go to the ground that just fail? Like how many failed attempts are we going to, because I think, if this stays on the feet, we're not going the distance at all. We're not going near the distance.
No,
not even close. Yeah, we might get to round 2 if it stays on the feet, man. Vettori needs that takedown something awful.
Yeah, and the thing is, just for Vettori to win, he'll have to get 3 of those in control for the whole round. And Adesanya's not just going to sit on his back the entire round, let Vettori control him. And exactly. we saw Vettori against Holland. He wasn't able to do that much damage when he had him controlled. He took him down 10 times. He couldn't control Kevin Holland on the ground, who's not very good on the ground either. And we saw his striking against Holland too. He was doing pretty terrible on the feet against Holland. Holland was piecing him up, and Izzy's on a way different level than Kevin Holland on the feet.
Completely agree, man. And Kevin Holland, up until recently, he's been posting a bunch of videos of him learning how to wrestle. Dude had no takedown defense, none whatsoever. He relied on the round ending and starting the next round on the feet to get back up where he needed to be. We saw Izzy defend takedowns from Vettori already. I know Vettori's gotten better, but Izzy knows how to wrestle. He knows how to get back up. He knows how to fight and get where he needs to be to win. He knows his win condition. Totally different setting. And absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It's got to be Izzy.
And people are forgetting that Izzy's got better too since that first fight. I mean, look at the people that Izzy's fought since then. He's been the guy in there with the way better competition. And Whitaker can wrestle. Gastelum can wrestle. All these guys can wrestle. They couldn't do anything with Izzy. So
that's the biggest thing I wanted to mention too, is that it's also battle tested. That's my favorite phrase, Clint, to use in UFC handicapping. Who have you fought recently? You can go out on the street and fight a bunch of random people, but you could fight some guy that's actually really skilled. And even though you're 5-1, those 5 wins might be atrocious, So I think that's huge. How do you approach that as far as, actually being battle tested recently?
Level of competition is everything, man. You see this a lot with UFC newcomers, guys that have come off the Dana White Contender Series. You look at their records and, man, this guy's 12-0. He's a beast. He's a monster.
Yeah.
But if he comes out of Alaska FC, he's learning his technique off of YouTube. It's a terrible regional scene up there. And no disrespect to anybody from Alaska. I'm sorry, your MMA regional scene sucks. We've seen it time and time again. They get to the UFC, and it doesn't matter if they're the best guy from Alaska. There's just not quality fights up there. There's not quality training. They got to move away from there and get to a good gym, and it takes them a year or 2 to evolve. So, yeah, man, you've got to look at the opponent level, the quality. And Vettori's had some good wins. Don't get me wrong. He's been battle tested. He absolutely deserves to be here, in my opinion. I've actually wanted him to get a crack at the belt for a while. I've been riding Marvin Vettori and making money off of him on this run since he lost to Izzy the first time. But I still think Izzy's a different level.
I think you and I had both in the same night a pretty big bet on Vettori a little while back, didn't we?
I think his last fight out, right? When he fought the Joker, Jack Hermanson.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, you were fired up over it. Joker, yeah, that was good. All right, I'm bad at pronouncing this name, so I'm just going to call him Figgy. Let's jump into that next one, and I'm going to go to you first, Clint. What are your thoughts on this one? It's been kind of a cool build-up. What are your thoughts?
Davison Figueiredo, man, the god of war. I love this guy. Absolutely love the attitude he brings. He's a killer. He's just vicious. And his style is fun to watch. I mean, he can grapple. He's got a squeeze like none other, so he can choke people out. He's physically powerful. It takes him so much time and effort to get down the weight class. He probably is going to end up moving up in a couple of years because he just can't handle cutting that much weight for that long. He's a big dude, and he just knocks people out. He's a fantastic champion, fun to watch. And the last fight, man, I laid the wood. I laid the minus 300 on Davison Figueiredo. And I have been a fan of Brandon Moreno since I first saw him on The Ultimate Fighter. He's been my dark horse in the division forever. And a little piece of me inside died when I bet against him. But Davison Figueiredo is one of those guys. that you can just take the stats, crumple them up, and throw them out the window because he denies all of them. It doesn't matter that you hit him more than he hits you. He's going to walk through it and knock you out. It doesn't matter that you take him down 3, 4, 5 times. He's going to get back up and punch you in the face and knock you out. It doesn't he just does things you're not supposed to do. And he's the champion for a reason because he's continued to deny the probabilities his entire career. But Brandon Moreno took him the distance, man. He hit Brandon Moreno with the kitchen sink. And Moreno, my boy, is a Mexican warrior and has a chin that just does not quit. And I am staying far away from this one because you're not supposed to bet on your heart, man. We all know that when you bet with your heart, you're just in trouble because you're either biased on what you're betting or you bet against yourself, and then it hurts either way. Like, yeah, you made a one-year bet, but your guy lost, and that sucks. So I definitely don't want to go back to the well here with Davis and Figueiredo. And I know we were talking about it backstage a little bit, me and my guy Harry, but, man, the face-offs. I think that Brandon Moreno, by being just the nicest guy in MMA, somehow has gotten under the skin of Davis and Figueiredo. Man, when they faced off after the press conference today, Moreno's trying to have a nice, respectful face-off. He's not mean-mugging. He's not getting in his face. He's not doing anything. And he's had nothing but nice things to say about Davis and Figueiredo. And Figueiredo shoves him, like, out of nowhere, like, leaps across Dana White to, like, double fist shove him, like, trying desperately to emphasize his dominance, trying desperately to get something back at this guy. What I think has happened, now this is where, with MMA, maybe more so than any other sport, you got to get in the head. Your mental state as a fighter is everything. And I think that Brandon Moreno has broken Davison because Davison has never met a human being who he could not kill. He's never met a man who could take his best shot and keep coming. And this man in front of him now went 25 minutes with him, took everything he had to offer, and now is standing in front of him again, and he's not blinking. He's not afraid. He's not scared. He felt the power of the champion and wants more. I think he's shook. I honestly think that Davison Figueiredo is shook by the calmness and coolness of Brandon Moreno. And, man, like I said, my heart is in this thing. I want to see Brandon Moreno succeed. I almost bet him when he was a plus 200 underdog. Some sharp money has come in on my boy. He's about plus 175 now. You can get plus 185 out there in a couple places. What I'm probably going to do is do one of the batshit crazy things that people see me do constantly.
The method of victories.
I think I'm going to sprinkle Brandon Moreno by submission. It's 12-1, Andrew. It's 12-1. No one has ever finished Davison. But if he comes in here and he's hot-headed and he makes a mistake, he's talked about how he's putting Brandon Moreno in the ground in round 1 to make a point, he's going to gas himself out. He's trying too hard. And Davison Figueiredo is a guy that's got a brick of a head too. You're not going to knock this guy out. So I think if Moreno extends him, if Moreno clips him, if Moreno hurts him, the old club and sub is on the table, man. He's not going to be able to finish him with punches, but he can get under that neck. I think it's worth a stab, man. A little sprinkle, quarter unit, a tenth of a unit, just something for fun.
How many fireball shots? If you hit that, how many fireball shots are we doing?
Oh, that's going to be like a 3-shotter, man. If that one comes through, that's a shirt off type of celebration. If that one comes through, the 12-1s are where it's at.
I'm excited. During this video, when I edit it, I'm just going to randomly just put in all kinds of celebrations. We have one that we already found of you in your car. We have all kinds, you going and driving to get more fireball. It's awesome. Yep. But Harry, what are your thoughts on this fight?
I agree with everything you said. Well, the numbers all point to Figueiredo, which is kind of concerning. But then, like you said, in some fights, you have to watch the fights. You have to know the fighters and their styles. Brandon Moreno is just in his face for 25 minutes, giving him everything he got and taking everything he got. And he wasn't phased at all. I mean, I think you can make an argument that Figueiredo was the most hurt in that fight at that point where he was kind of wobbled. And Moreno has a lot there. I think there's a path to victory for him. I think it's going to take his chin to hold up again, though. I think he's going to have to be there early and take Figueiredo's best shots. He'll have to be in his face for the whole fight. But I think he can put an onslaught on him in rounds 3 and 4 and 5 if he can weather the storm. And these are one of those fights that you want to pay attention to the weigh-ins on Friday. You want to see how Deiveson Figueiredo looks. He's massive for this division. I don't even think he lasts another couple of years in this division. I bet if he wins here, he's asking to move up right away for that double champ fight, even though it wouldn't work out right now. But
and he's just never coming back down.
No, he isn't. And I think it's gonna be really interesting. I think Moreno's a live dog. I agree in that sense of you not betting him straight up, but looking for that prop. I think he's live on the money line a bit, especially after watching that press conference. I didn't like the stature of Figueiredo. I don't like how he's kind of phased by the moment. And the crowd's all with Moreno now too, which might play a factor too.
Harry, you're going to talk me into
Moreno.
that, my boy. You're going to talk me into it.
I've talked myself into it. After watching the press conference today, it's like, there's no way I'm even looking at Figueiredo. I'm like, I have to bet Moreno just for the sake of it because I love this guy. And then he's got the whole crowd with him. All the Mexican fans made their way down to Arizona. Oh, it's going to be awesome. But I think Moreno has a real chance here. I think it's going to be another war, and I like Moreno a bit.
Do the weigh-ins ever mess with you guys in a bad way? Obviously the weigh-ins can tell us some good things, but do they ever talk you out of somebody that ends up winning?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A good example is guys like Jose Aldo or Edson Barboza. They're very similar to Deiveson Figueiredo. They cut a massive amount of weight, man. And if you see a picture of them on the scale and then a picture of them on the fight, they're completely different humans. Somehow they suck themselves down to the weight class. They look like they're literally about to keel over and die on the scales. And I've used that as fuel to bet against them a couple of times. And then they rehydrate, they survive, they sleep overnight, and the next day they look like the Terminator. And there's no there's no ill effect. And you're like, how is that possible? Eventually they're gonna crack. I've bet against Edson Barboza 3 times in a row, and he's won all 3 times. So I mean, there's some people you just got to learn the hard way that they're built different, and that's Deiveson Figueiredo. So if he looks awful on the scales tomorrow, kind of expect it.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool.
There's also the cheaters too, who miss weight by 5 pounds and make you consider the guy that you love that cut all the weight and looks drained, but he's on weight and ready. I love Gregor Gillespie against Ferreira, and then Ferreira misses by 5 pounds or more, and
didn't
now I'm
even try.
I'm am I supposed to still bet Gregor or what? I'm like, that's just straight cheating. They got to get warnings for cut. I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
That had me more fired up for my bet. Seeing that happen, that had me more excited just to watch me, win a bet, because that stuff, I mean, there's no comparison to that. Clint, can you compare that to any other sport? I don't know if you can really compare that.
The only thing I can compare that to, man, is exactly one of the reasons why I don't really follow or watch basketball. But when you show up courtside and they sit the starters,
right?
that's the only thing. You've got a -7.5 ticket in your pocket, and you show up, and suddenly, sorry, LeBron's not playing tonight, boys, and the line flips, and it's a pick'em, but you're laying 7. That's kind of how it feels.
That's a nightmare for a bettor, man.
Exactly. That's kind of how it feels, because, man, you've got this guy, and you're like, this lines up this way. This is perfect. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that. Oh, wait a second. His opponent didn't suck himself down to the weight class. He's going to have a 6-pound weight advantage. That's not a small weight advantage, man. He'll be able to throw that weight around in a big way inside the cage. Yeah, it's a big deal, and it matters.
Let's jump into Diaz and Edwards. This is going to be fun. Whenever a Diaz brother is involved in a fight or really involved in social media, involved in anything, it's pretty amusing. Let's go to you first, Harry, for your thoughts.
This fight makes all the sense and no sense at the same time. From the UFC's perspective, it makes a ton of sense because you get Leon Edwards here sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happens with Usman and Covington. You get him against a big name in Nate Diaz, and it gives Diaz the chance to fight a top contender and see if he can prove himself as a top guy at 170. But this is an absolute mess match. This is a ridiculous fight to be made. I mean, if Nate Diaz was at 155 against top 5 guy, I'd say, all right, maybe he has a chance. But you're telling me you're putting him there against a natural welterweight and Leon Edwards, and you're expecting him to compete at all? I think that's a tall task. I'm sad for Nate because I know the fans are going to love him there, but they're probably going to watch him get beat up for 3 to 5 rounds. I think Leon might I think he might find a finish. I don't know. I'm curious to see it. But Leon's going to have the size advantage. He's going to have the advantage in the striking, the sharpness, literally everything. Where if it gets on the ground, I think he can control Diaz with kind of ease. I don't know what Diaz's path to victory is other than Edwards somehow gassing himself out to the 4th and 5th and he can somehow find a finish, but that seems like highly unlikely. I love Leon Edwards in this fight. Makes zero sense for, I don't know. It's just a weird fight. Very strange.
Mr.
I love that.
Diehard,
love
where are you going?
Harry's on point, man. It's got to be Leon. It's a weird fight, and like he said, this is the first true 170-pounder that Nate Diaz has ever faced. I mean, even moving up to 170, he fought Jorge Masvidal, a guy that's a fellow 155er that's transitioned up at the end of his career. Like, this is a guy who's fought at 170 his entire career. So he's going to be at a significant size disadvantage. And a big difference between these guys is one of the reasons people love the Diaz brothers is they don't play the game, man. They step in there to fight.
Right.
And they do stupid shit because they're in a street fight in a cage. Leon Edwards is the exact opposite of that. He minds his P's and Q's. He does exactly what he has to do to win a mixed martial arts fight based on the judging criteria of the sport of MMA. Huge advantage, Leon Edwards, simply because of that. Nate Diaz, he's got some nasty jiu-jitsu, man, but he doesn't wrestle. So you got to fall into his guard. You got to let him take your back for him to use that. Leon's not going to do that. Leon's a fantastic wrestler, and if he's on top of Nate, he's going to be in a dominant position. He's not going to leave any openings. And then on the feet, Diaz is a volume boxer. He doesn't even have that one-hitter-quitter power. He's got to ping you in the face the whole fight until you slow down. Leon's got a great gas tank. Leon's got sharper punches. Leon is point A to point B as hard and as fast as possible. That's going to cause a problem for a guy like Nate Diaz. And on top of that, Diaz is one of the longest-running fighters in the UFC today. He's got a ton of scar tissue in his face from all the battles that he's been in. He's going to get busted up. He's going to get opened up. And now, oh, baby. Sorry, I took Jose Altuve to hit a home run at 5-1, and he just hit it out of the park. So
No way. Well, I'm on the
right.
Astros, and I had their team total, so we're both celebrating.
We're both pretty happy with that move then. So, sorry, lost my train of thought there. Gotta love the sports gambling. Now
You're talking about him being banged up already. He can get broken up a little bit.
Yeah, so I think that Leon Edwards is gonna have no fear of him on the feet. He's gonna control the striking. And if he wants to take it to the ground, he's going to control the grappling. Leon's a guy that's been snubbed for years, man. He's been the dark horse of the division. He's a title challenger level competitor that has just never got his crack. He's not entertaining. He's not good on the mic. He doesn't do crazy things in the octagon. So the fans don't know who he is. His claim to fame was getting bitch slapped by Jorge Masvidal. Like, no one knows this Leon guy. So he is now on the cusp of a title shot. He's fighting the biggest name opponent he's ever gotten. He's on record saying that he's going to make a statement. I think he TKOs Nate Diaz, and that is not an easy thing to do. But I think it has a lot to do with that scar tissue. I think it's got a lot to do with that blood. Because if Leon Edwards gets on top of him for 2-3 straight rounds and elbows him in the face, the referee is eventually going to call it. They're going to pull him off. And I think it's going to be late like that, man. Nate Diaz is a guy that's tough. He's durable. He does not quit on himself. And he's not an easy guy to knock out. The referee, knowing his last fight was cut due to stopped due to a cut, they're probably going to let it go a bit. So I'm probably going to sprinkle some round props with Leon Edwards. He's another guy that I threw in my parlay I talked about earlier. I don't mind parlaying him. The price is a little steep at this point. It doesn't do you much good since he's like minus 600 or something crazy now. But the KO prop at plus 145. That doesn't look bad to me. And then round 4 is like 12-1, and round 5 is like 14-1. And man, I think that if it gets late, Leon's going to step on the gas. He's going to try and get that finish. He's going to try to get that signature win so that he can finally get on that microphone and call out Kamaru Usman and say that Dana White cannot deny him a title shot. I think he's going for it. So I like the KO prop. I like those late round props. I do think it gets over because Nate is durable. Should be fun. But it's probably going to be an ass whooping.
I think so too. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts. I'll start with you, Clint, on just round betting and prop betting in the UFC in general, method of victory wagers, because I know I've seen you and hats off to you. You're very, very transparent about results, wins, losses. You have fun. You're entertaining. You can find them, of course, on Twitter at DieHardMMA. I want to say that, how do you get it going with, this guy's going to win in round 2? How do, this guy's round 3. Obviously, it's about the odds, but how do you approach those on a week in, week out basis and manage your bankroll in a way that you can try and hit some of these great plus prices?
So for me, man, it comes from being a lifelong mixed martial artist fan. I know these fighters inside and out. I watch the tape of their last 3-4 fights every single week before I do my show on Mondays. So I've seen their history, and I know what they're good at. I know what they're bad at. I know what they do. I know how long their gas tank lasts. We're making educated guesses here, man. So, like, you look at a fighter that's got a bad gas tank, and you're going up against somebody who's got a good gas tank. And you go, okay, you know, this guy tends to slow down the deeper the fight goes, but he's real tough. He's hell on wheels early in the fight. This guy's probably going to extend it. And then you start looking at rounds 2 and rounds 3, because if you talk to Gianni, we mentioned him earlier, you know, most fights that are going to end, they end in round 1. That's when everybody's fresh. That's when they can hit the hardest. That's when all that power is there. They're not sweaty. They can get the submission. You know, round 1 is where most of the finishes come into play. But I like to snipe those spots where you find somebody who you just know is going to fade. And there's a couple fighters, I've got a short list of names, that you know they are done after about 6 minutes of fight time. And if they go up against somebody who's capable of defending, they'll flip the tables on them, and that's where you start finding that opportunity. And that's just the eye test, man. It takes time. That's not something you can look into the stats for. That's not something you can look into the numbers for. You got to be watching the fights. You got to be paying attention, and you got to know the fighter to find that opportunity. And then sometimes, you know, like with Brandon Moreno by submission, that's just the number, man. The people forget how good at jiu-jitsu this guy is. Is he really going to submit Davis and Figueiredo, a guy who's never been finished? I mean, probably not. You know, maybe he wins a decision. They're slugging it out. He probably wins by knockout. But we're talking 12-1. Don't go big on these props. The key is the bankroll management. They're sprinkles. They're small shots. You hit 12-1 and you're free rolling for your next couple stabs that you want to take. So anybody that's listening to this and they're like, Clint said he's going to submit him, I'm going to put $500 on the sub prop. No, put 20. Put $20 on the sub prop. Like, you know, take a breather. It's just a little amount on it. Low risk, high reward. That's the way those props really start to shine.
A strategy that I've talked to with Harry all the time, and him and I are always talking UFC. I've seen him, Clint, take an underdog that's like plus 140 and just say, no, I don't like that. I'm going to decide how he's going to win the fight as the underdog. Tell us about that, Harry.
Well, yeah. So especially in female fights lately, if I like an underdog in a female fight, if it's not one of the top like ranked fighters in the world, I'm going to take them via decision every time. Just because history shows that unless they're one of the top few, this fight's probably going the distance. The over 2.5 rounds are always like minus 400 or something ridiculous. So then it's always like, all right, I'm going to take them via decision because I can get that extra value. And then I'm like, all right, that's a way better number than the plus 140. I can get them near plus 200 or better. And it's like, man, I just got this great value now. And especially, I love the decision props, especially when you get 2 durable fighters in there. I think it takes away the element of betting money lines. I just go straight to the decision. If I see 2 durable fighters against each other, I'm like, all right, I'm going to pick the side I like, and I'm going to go with them via decision because you just get that extra value, and it's all about value.
It's funny. In every single sport, guys, betting the over is fun, except for MMA. I hate it in the MMA. I'd rather, you hate it until it's like round 3, and then you're begging for a knockout if you have the under, So it's a little bit different, but that's one thing I find hilarious about UFC. I mean, betting, you get those great plus prices if you're looking to bet somebody via decision, but then you're sweating it out. If someone's dominating, you're just yelling at that referee for a beatdown to not happen. And then vice versa. If you have somebody to win inside the distance, I think there was one fight night. I don't know if it was like a couple months ago, and there were like 3 or 4 in one night where every referee just let the fights go. I think, Harry, we were talking about that before. It was like, come on, like, what are you doing? Like, this person is like dying on the ground. Like, stop the fight. And there was one with Anthony Smith. That was one that was just like, what are you doing? Yeah, exactly. That one was tough to watch. And I understand. I think it's so cool when like there's fighters that look like they're about to just gas and somehow they just like get demented and just come back to life. And it's just like they end up winning the fight. It's so cool to see. But 9 times out of 10, it's like that Simpsons, meme, stop, he's already dead, stop the fight. So I find that really funny. But yeah, looking at those method of victory wagers can be really profitable. And I know both Harry and Clint get involved with those. I wanted to ask both you guys, I'm going to start with you, Clint, just what's an underrated fight on this card? We kind of touched on some of the key ones, but what's one you're going to give us that everyone's going to be like, who's that? What's that for you?
This card is completely stacked top to bottom, man. And the fight that I'm going to give to you is buried. It's the second fight on the card, man. Rosiam taking on Luigi Benjamini. These are two guys that are still very fresh and young in the UFC. They're new faces, they're new names. Most people have no idea who they are. And this fight is going to be an absolute banger. Luigi Benjamini has a 100% finish rate. He's got 9 wins, 5 KOs, 4 submissions, 1 loss. That one's by knockout. This is an action fighter. He's exactly what the UFC is looking for. And Rosiam is about the exact opposite. He's a point fighter. He's a technical striker. He plays the outside. He likes to stick and move. So you're going to have a bull in the matador type of situation here, and someone's going to sleep because Rosiam is going to be trying to stay away from the power of Luigi, and Luigi's going to be pressing the issue until he kills or gets killed. So that's one of my fights to look out for. And, man, I've got a bet on the underdog. I've got Luigi Benjamini at plus 115 because I think he's the more polished fighter, and I do think he's eventually going to get the opportunity to get his hands on Ziam. And you ready for this, Andrew? We were just talking about it. Half unit on Luigi by submission, plus 900.
Plus 900.
9-1 on the sub prop.
It isn't a diehard MMA breakdown without a few plus 900s or 12-1 plays in there.
That's where it's at, man. I got to tell you, you mentioned my transparency earlier. I tweet out my record. I put my wins and losses out there. People look at my record. They're like, bro, what is wrong with you? Because my record is like 63 wins and like 137 losses. And they're like, why would you show that? I'm in the black. I'm profitable. So my average line is like plus 205. It's because of these insane moves that I make. And people say there's no such thing as value in sports betting. I'm living, breathing proof that that is false because I'm playing these long lines where I see value, and in the long term, they come through. And you end up being positive in the long run. Now, I'm not a professional. I've never claimed to be a professional. So I'm not like making money hand over fist or anything like that, but I have a damn good time. And if I can break even or win a little bit of money over the course of a year betting my favorite sport, that's what I'm all about, man. When you hit this 9-1 on Saturday, when Luigi knocks Rosiam to the floor and then he gives up his back and he jumps on his back and he's sinking in the choke and you're all screaming at the TV and you're pouring the fire, but that's what it's about. That's what I'm looking for. So I love this kid as the underdog. Maybe he wins by knockout. Maybe he wins his first ever decision. I don't know. But the fact is Ziam has lost 2 out of 3 by submission. His 3 professional losses, he's been submitted twice. And this kid, Vindramini's a black belt, 4 wins by submission. The path to victory is right there, and that line is way off. So let's go.
Love it. Clint, when you have clients and people at a website like Wager Talk banking on you every single night, that's what my household looks like. It's like half entertainment, half cheering, and then half of like, holy shit, like we need this win. So it's a little bit of fun, a little bit of stress, and it's enjoyment, man. Like you said, you used to be a fan every Saturday. Now you're checking the Astros score, and you can't help but announce it. I love it. I don't mind you did that. I love it. It shows enthusiasm. Harry, give us one more fight. Give us one more fight to be interested here.
Mine is, I'll go Dober and Riddell. Just because I can't get a read on this fight. It's one of those fights I've gone back and forth on. I'm like, you got pretty boy Drew Dober over there, who's coming off a loss to Islam Makhachev, who's arguably like the guy at 155 going forward. And then you got Brad Riddell, who hasn't been that active, but when he's active, he always looks good. But his competition level's a lot lower, so it's like I think this fight's going to take part on the feet. But then I'm like, Riddell's really sharp. But at the same time, Dober's got that power, and he's just kind of awkward, quirky. And he's beat these guys. He's battle-tested. So I'm like, I don't know which way it's going. It's near pick'em, and I just can't get a read on it at all. And those are the fights that excite me. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm excited to see. And that's one of the ones that it's flying under the radar this week. and they're two ranked guys, so it should be really interesting.
Well, that's what's awesome. Like all three of us are sports fans. We're fans of the game, fans of the sport. No matter what sport it is, UFC, we could sit down, we could have a drink together and watch. And I'm sure both of you guys see it on Twitter. Some people can't watch anything without betting on it. To me, I'm like, you're not a sports fan, you know, and they're going to say, well, I make money betting. And I just think that there's certain angles they might miss because they never played sports and never watched sports and stuff like that. And I think that looking at, you know, you saying that, Harry, look, this is going undervalued, under the radar. Those to me are some of the fights that you can make money off of the most. You know, everyone and especially handicappers. Every handicapper's big play of the day, their play of the week is going to be the main event or the co-main, or, you know, they're not going to have a main event. They're not going to have a 5%, 10 unit play or whatever they might be selling you on, you know, a prelim fight where it's -110, -1. They're just not going to happen. It's not going to sell, you know, and I think it's so cool to find some of these fights that are going on so early in the night that are going to be entertaining. And like, I've had friends, you know, get home from getting groceries and be like, what did I miss? I'm like, probably the fight of the night, probably the best fight that you were going to see of the whole night. So it's so cool that way. And I love the way that works. You mentioned Makhachev. What do you think about him? What's next for him? Who are his opponents coming up? What's the deal with him?
Well, he's got Thiago Moises coming up soon.
Hell of a fight.
Because nobody's going to fight him in the top 10 willingly. And Moises is really interesting, too, because he's a really well-rounded guy. Like, his ground game's ridiculous, arguably one of the best in the division. But Makhachev's striking is on another level. People underrated his striking still, I think. And I think that fight might take a lot of, like, I think Makhachev won't be scared to go for the takedowns, but I think he'll be a little more hesitant. But I see a lot of that fight going on the feet, and I think Makhachev's going to piece him up a bit and show a different side to himself. It's really interesting.
What do you think, Clint? I mean, I find it so cool, the matchmakers, right? They got a fun job, but a tough job at the same time, trying to pick who's going to go up against who. What's next for him?
Man, Khabib, the king of 155, basically exited the division and said, my son, Islam Makhachev, you're the next champion of 155. Like, he's the dude that's supposed to come up next. And he's scary, man. He's a scary good wrestler. He's just like Khabib, and he's arguably a better striker. He arguably has a better frame for MMA. He could legitimately be Khabib 2.0, and he's younger. He doesn't have the weight of the 30, 29-0 on him or whatever. He's probably going to be around longer. So, yeah, man, Islam Makhachev is scary, and that fight with Thiago Moises is going to be something. One thing I always side with, Andrew, is wrestling beats jiu-jitsu. Okay. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, so nobody try to skewer me in the comments about that. When you have a strong, powerful, heavy wrestler that learns submission defense, that's all they need. They don't need to know jiu-jitsu. They just know how to stop your jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So when you get a guy like Thiago Moises, who's a high-level black belt, he gets put on his back. He's like, I'm comfortable, bro. I'll throw a triangle up. I'll grab your Kimura. Like, I'm gonna choke you out from down here. But the wrestlers, they just stuff all that. You end up in the worst position you've ever been in your life. It's painful. It's grinding. It's exhausting. And then you slowly mentally break because you understand, I have no answer here. So a high-level wrestler seems to more often than not defeat a high-level jiu-jitsu player. We've seen it time and time again. If the jiu-jitsu guy is just that much better than the wrestler, they'll catch him. They'll get him. No one's catching Islam Makhachev. He'll take Thiago Moises down, and he'll make his night awful. And then he'll call out the top 10, and everyone's going to duck him for another fight or two.
I could spend all day pretty much talking about McGregor, goods and bads. I used to be a big fan, typical UFC guy, typical person that wasn't really following UFC like crazy, just watching the big cards, betting the big cards. But I don't even want to take the time to dive into it, but I'm so tempted to do it. I got to get your thoughts on him, Clint. But let's talk about round 3. Obviously, Poirier, McGregor, and I wanted to ask you, does the winner of Poirier McGregor deserve to be the favorite against Oliveira? And what's the next thing for either Poirier or McGregor, depending on the result?
So, short answer, yes. In my opinion, Poirier McGregor is the real title fight. They decided to run it back. Dustin Poirier knows money when he sees it. It's a smart business decision. He knows that he's only going to get one more crack at McGregor, and he's going to make a ton of money doing it. So he took the rematch. And that was very smart of him. He passed up the title for it. That says just how much more money he's going to make fighting McGregor than having the belt. The guy with the belt makes all the money in the UFC, so he's making that much more for the rematch. Man,
it's red panty night.
It's red panty
night when you fight McGregor.
It absolutely is. So they're 1-1, and the difference is I think that Dustin Poirier is filled out better at 155. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's thicker, and more importantly, he's got this insane durability that just is inhuman, basically. His fight with Justin Gaethje, he took more punishment than any man should be capable of, and then he knocked the dude out. McGregor cannot keep up his style for 25 minutes. The one time he did it was against Nate, a guy that, like I said before, essentially has pillow fists. You can outpoint that guy. You can outplay that guy. McGregor figured that out. You can't outplay Dustin. Dustin knows the game too damn well. Dustin's too well-rounded. Dustin is the one guy that gave Khabib a little bit of trouble grappling before he finally succumbed to the submission in, I think, round 4. Like, he made it further than anybody else did. So Dustin Poirier is a legitimate threat, and in my opinion, the rightful champion at 155 at this point in time. Now, I need to text Gianni. We need to have a conversation because when they fought last time, McGregor was a minus 250 favorite, minus 220 favorite. And we both said, look, McGregor has value. He should be the favorite. He deserves to be the favorite. And if they were to do the rematch, we'll take him at a pick'em. Well,
here we go.
He just got his ass knocked out, and he is a pick'em against Dustin Poirier. And my opinion has changed. I was ready to line up on McGregor and take him as the favorite and said, no matter what happens in the rubber match, I'm betting McGregor because I'll get a better price tag on it. After seeing them, after seeing how old McGregor looked, after seeing how sucked out he looked, I don't think he's acclimated to 155 as well as Dustin Poirier has. Dustin Poirier has talked about moving up to 170, for God's sake. No, I mean, even though Conor has flirted with the idea of 170, he's massively undersized at that weight class. And I think the hard living is catching up to him. I think being the millionaire and living the party life has caught up to him. He looked sucked out, man. He didn't look healthy. He didn't look good. Maybe I'll change my mind when we get a little bit closer to the fight, but I think the miles have added up on McGregor's body. And if you're going to go to war with a guy like Dustin Poirier, we can't question your gas tank and we can't question your durability. Skill for skill, maybe McGregor should be the favorite. Maybe he is the better fighter. Maybe he is the sharper striker. But does he hit as hard as he used to? Is he as fast as he used to? Can he take a punch like he used to?
He did catch Poirier. He didn't, he got beat, but like it's not like it was like, a no contest, but it was a pretty dominant performance at the same time. We can't sit here and say McGregor didn't land anything, but it's to the credit that you said, the durability of Poirier that has to be mentioned. And you talk about what Gianni said to you about a fight being over in the first round. And like you said, the gas tank, that's the biggest thing everyone says about McGregor. If he's going to win, why not take a first round prop? Why not take him to win in the first or second round? Because that's going to be a lot more value. You're going to get away from that minus 110. And it's so funny because you're seeing, you talk about what you guys mentioned. They're going to fight again. Give me a minus 110. I'll bet it. And now you're kind of thinking about it again. And so what has changed besides the odds? It's kind of my favorite expression to say in UFC. What has changed between these two gentlemen besides the odds we're given? And people always say bet numbers, not teams, or bet numbers, not fighters. But in this instance, they didn't fight that long ago. What has changed in their camp? What has McGregor gotten better at? What did Poirier get better at? What did they get worse? You know what I mean? Like, and I agree with Clint. I mean, I watch a lot of motivational stuff online. I love seeing, people's come up stories, and it's a real big come up story for McGregor. It is, and to see him wearing these suits that are worth more than the houses that are around me right now, probably, all jokes aside. But I think when you look at it, he's not as hungry. He used to be so hungry. And I don't know. What are your thoughts, though, Harry, on first of all, just number 3 between these two within the future for both of them?
Man, I love McGregor. I've been a McGregor fanboy forever, but He did not look good in that performance. He didn't look prepared. That's the thing. He looked like he was in there boxing Poirier. He did not look like a mixed martial artist. He looked like a guy that was trying to box his way, get in, get out, go fight Pacquiao in an exhibition or something. He did not look like he was there for a mixed martial arts fight. He was caught off guard right away when Poirier went for the takedown. He was caught off guard by trying to realize what these leg kicks were that he's missed out on the past 2 years, trying to figure out what those were, and it killed him. He got worn out. He did not know how to react. He wasn't able to make the adjustments in the fight, and he faded really quick. And it happened in front of your eyes. Like, I think everybody, once it got to the end of the first round, you're like, oh crap, he's kind of done here. This is not going to go his way here in the second round. This is not looking good. Like, he's had his moments on the feet. Like, I still think if he could knock out Poirier, but Poirier's chin he's been rock solid since he's got up to 155. He has not been phased. He's in there with Gaethje. He took some of Connor's best shots and shook it off like it was nothing. And I don't see McGregor getting close to beating him in the decision. I don't think he could last 5 rounds, let alone 3 with Poirier. So I think the only thing that I like in the third fight, I haven't seen the total for it, but I'd take the under 2.5 if that was an option. And if you are going to bet McGregor, I agree. It's probably round 1 instead of have to pick him. And it's hard. It's hard. I loved McGregor in the second fight because, like, the statistics always show in rematches, it always favors the guy that won the first one and stuff like that. But in the third one, like, I think it's hard to bet him at a pick 'em, even at a pick 'em. It's ridiculous. I don't know.
Let's not forget when that first one was either. We've kept you long enough, Clint. We want to get you out of here, but I have just 2 questions for you.
You're good, man.
The first one I'm going to ask you, Alexander Volkov, outside of John Jones, is he the next challenge for Francis?
Yes. Alexander Volkov is my dark horse in the heavyweight division, man. Nobody understands just how good Alexander Volkov is. He's big, he's long, he's got a never-ending gas tank, he's got more experience than anybody in the division right now, and he's getting better. Man, he fought Curtis Blades, and he lost to Curtis Blades via decision in a 25-round main event. But if you watch that fight, go back, in the 4th and the 5th rounds, he's making Curtis Blades wiggle. He's making Curtis Blades sweat. He's hurting him on the feet. He's defending those takedowns. If this was old school Pride rules, where the fight's over when someone goes to sleep, Alexander Volkov's going to win that fight. And after that, he realized, you know what? I'm a little bit string beanie. I'm big, I'm tall, I'm long, but some of these boys are just too strong. So he went out and he packed on 40 pounds of muscle. The Alexander Volkov that we have walking around today is completely different from the Alexander Volkov people are looking at tape on 2-3 years ago. And the guy that, got knocked out in the literal last second against Derek Lewis a couple years ago because the fight was in the bag and he dropped his guard, that guy's long gone. He's killing people now. And I already locked him up. Andrew, I bet him ahead of time as an underdog, and I botched the line. I didn't realize how much love there was going to be for Cyril Gane, but I think Cyril Gane's biting off more than he can chew. When they fight in that next battle, I really think that Volkov is the next big challenge for Francis Ngannou. I'm a huge King Francis believer. I've been calling him as the future heavyweight GOAT for years, and I made a massive bet on him against Stipe, even though everyone thought they'd seen it before and Stipe was just going to do it to him again. No. Francis is a freak of nature, and he's not going anywhere. So if they fight, of course I'm backing Francis Ngannou. That's the one man that I will take over Volkov. You give me Volkov against any other heavyweight, and I'm betting my boy.
Sorry about that. I feel like my next question is pretty much going to be, well, you already answered it maybe, but kind of a 2-parter. Who's your favorite fighter, and who's the pound-for-pound best?
Ooh, that is such a tough question, man. So, favorite fighter, it was Henry Cejudo. I love the King of Cringe. He's hilarious to me. So I don't know if he counts because he's kind of 1 foot out the door right now. I think he's doing the McGregor retirement thing where he's building up a comeback. You know what I mean? He's not actually retired. I think that's what's going on. So I'll say Henry Cejudo is my favorite fighter. If you gotta, if he doesn't count because he's retired, I'll probably say Francis Ngannou just because he's such a freak of nature. I love watching that guy and what he does. Pound for pound, man, it's got to be, in my opinion, it's got to be Khabib. Absolutely has to be Khabib. A lot of people are going to say John Jones, and maybe there's an argument to be had for that. but we've never seen Jon Jones go up or go down. I know you can say you've never seen Khabib go up or go down either, so there's a little bit of an argument to be had there. But the amount of quality competition that Khabib faced, fighters in their primes, I think is just uncontested. Jon Jones fought a lot of legends of the sport, but a lot of them were on the decline when he fought them. They were at the ends of their career. It was their last crack. They were the big names that the UFC was pushing up to give him the opportunity. He did some amazing things, but then there's also the question of the performance-enhancing drugs, man. His one knockout was over Daniel Cormier when he popped, and now he legitimately has performance-enhancing drugs pulsing inside his system. They created a rule specifically for Jon Jones because he put something in himself that literally will never disappear. So that puts a huge question mark to me. I'm not dumb. I believe Nate Diaz. They're all on steroids, man. Everybody's taking something. But Khabib
that cracked me up when
caught.
he said that. When he said that, that killed me.
It's such a good line, man. It's a classic line from MMA. So, I mean, I'm going to say Khabib, and I also have a bias. I'm not a big fan of Jon Jones. I think his personality is awful, and being pound for pound greatest, you got to be a good champion mixed in there. And Khabib, maybe we don't see eye to eye on every political and social issue in the world, but he's an honorable guy. He loves his mom. He promised his mom he wouldn't compete ever again, and he stuck to that. That says something to me. Khabib's the pound for pound king.
Well, I got to ask you a question now. In a potential match, who would you favor? At 170, Kamaru Usman or Khabib? If it was 170, who would you favor in that?
Usman. We have weight classes for a reason, man.
Yeah.
As much as Khabib is incredible, Usman is another freak of nature. He's another one of these guys that just never quits, and he's another one that's scary because he's also getting better. He's the champion, and he's improving. That's terrifying for people in the division. I think that it would just strictly come down to size. When you get wrestlers and you have a similar skill set, it comes down to power. It comes down to strength. And Kamaru's going to have a slight edge on that because he's just a bigger man. So I think he would end up winning that wrestling match since they're both predominantly wrestlers.
And one last question. Prediction for tonight. Does Claressa Shields get the knockout in her debut? Do you think she can make it in MMA?
I do. I think she can. I mean, someone that's, Olympic caliber like her, look at who's the example that I'm looking for?
Kayla Harrison, kind of.
Damian Maia's fighting this weekend. He's a world-class jiu-jitsu player. He transitioned over to MMA. He knows what it takes to reach the literal pinnacle of his sport. And he put that work and that effort in to striking, to wrestling, to round out his jiu-jitsu so he could be competitive at the high level of MMA. So she's a champion in boxing. She knows what it takes. If she applies that effort, if she applies that will to learning jiu-jitsu, to learning how to wrestle, she'll be a problem. And I think PFL, Bellator, you know what they're good at? They're good at making people look good. They'll find you. The matchmaking in the UFC is the best against the best. They're trying to find somebody who's going to push you or expose you in a way. Like, look at Jamal Hill taking on Craig this weekend. We got questions about Jamal Hill's ground game. So they're giving him a dominating wrestler with sick jiu-jitsu to test him. Is he ready for that next step? The others don't do that, man. Aaron Pico's a perfect example. They're going to line cans up in front of him to crush for the next 5 years. They're going to call him the greatest of all time. He's just not that good. But they're going to continue giving him winnable fights over and over and over. That's what they're going to do with Claressa Shields. And this first fight is just her first test. Can you fight mixed martial arts? I think she passes, man. I understand not wanting to lay minus 250 with a fighter who's never played mixed martial arts in her entire life. We've never seen her wrestle. We've never seen her play jiu-jitsu. So I get betting the MMA fighter against the boxer, but she's been training her ass off. And she's a world-class athlete. I think if she stuffs one or two takedowns, she knocks this chick's head off.
well, it's interesting because that line was minus 500, minus 600, and it's gone all the way down to minus 200, 250 because the MMA community is probably betting on the other girl. I think it's either going to be a quick knockout in round one or early round two, or if the other girl might, I don't know, the longer it goes, the more it favors the MMA fighter, I believe.
Correct. The longer it goes, the more it'll favor the woman that's been in there and knows the skill set more, for sure. And, man, the line made no sense. It's her MMA debut. We've never seen her shuck a takedown. We've never seen her get up from bottom. how's she a minus 500 favorite? The sharps are going to be all over that dog money, and that makes perfect sense to me. But at the end of the day, I still think she wins.
So what are your thoughts on like the Paul brothers and what they're trying to do? Obviously, they're trying to make a bunch of money, but like we're seeing Tyron now getting involved. What are your thoughts? Because I thought, Jake Paul against Ben Askren, probably one of the stupidest things that's ever crossed my mind, thinking that Askren might have had a chance. That was probably one of the stupidest things I've thought in my whole entire life. Because that was more so just my hatred towards Paul and not thinking he could box, but forgetting that Askren literally survived in an octagon throwing pillows, to quote you. He literally couldn't punch. And to me, all I was thinking was, well, he's taking a bunch of hits, so he'll be able to take hits. And then it looks like it was staged and he falls over in the first 30 seconds. So what do you think about these, even with McGregor and Mayweather, that's more of a show than it is a match. I mean, it was competitive-ish, but what are your thoughts on all this stuff as a whole? I mean, crossing sports. And yeah, it wasn't competitive. I think Mayweather kind of toyed with him, but I don't think that McGregor got embarrassed. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, no. I absolutely get what you're saying. But, man, honestly, the Paul brothers, I have nothing but props for those guys. They're geniuses. Mm-hmm. They're making money hand over fist right now, and they're playing the Mayweather game. They're stacking the deck. They're not going to lose, but they're making crap tons of money, and they're becoming the villains, and they're pissing everybody in the world off, and that's the point. Like, they're doing an amazing job at what they're doing. Fighting Askren was the best move he ever could have made, man. And that's my only regret in 2021 is that I didn't bet more on Jake Paul, because minus 155 was the biggest gift line I've ever seen. And I'm the MMA guy. I don't want, the MMA guy to lose to a boxer, but Ben Askren was showing up for a paycheck, man, and had a spare tire on his front. He didn't train for that fight. And on top of that, Askren was a dominating wrestler in his time in MMA. He was never a striker. He was never a boxer. He took people down. Like, there was no threat whatsoever to Paul in that fight. And it wasn't staged. He has legitimate knockout power. Paul is rich, and he's getting the best training in the world to become a legitimate boxer. He's in his prime. He's athletic. He's fast. He hits hard. He's a decent boxer. But is he going to fight real boxers? No. He's going to take easy paydays.
There was outrage, though, Clint, on Twitter, man. There was outrage on Twitter being like, this is complete bullshit. Like, it looks like, because think about it. Ben Askren survived in octagons against trained fighters and guys that could elbow you and do everything. And he kind of just stood there and took a punch.
It's because he couldn't change levels, Andrew.
Let's be honest, though. I mean, he didn't really. I'm not saying there's any propaganda or anything. I'm just saying that, like, you talk about setting up a great pathway for yourself, showing up for a paycheck. That's probably, if we made a definition of showing up for a paycheck, you would find Ben Askren's name, because that's exactly what he was smiling. Yep. It was red panty night in the Askren household. That's what night it was for him. So. I think it's kind of cool. It's entertaining. I would never pay for it. I don't care about admitting I'm streaming. I don't come at me, whoever's organizing this stuff. I'm not paying $50 to watch those guys fight. That's for sure. Man, it's awesome to talk with you. I feel like I was going to say nice to meet you, but I've known you for a long time. So I'm not even going to say that, but it's nice to chat with you. And we really appreciate having you on.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. It was an absolute blast. I'd love to do it again sometime. And yeah, as you can probably tell, I'll talk MMA for hours. The reason I started a podcast is because my wife was sick of me trying to talk to her about MMA. So I spoke into the void for 2 hours at a time instead, and ended up finding people that liked hearing it. So love it. It was fun. It was a pleasure officially meeting both of you guys. And thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Clint.